All right, how's it going? This is Anthony, and today I just want to talk about Memorial Day. All right, as I'm recording this, it's Sunday, May 26th. All right, so Memorial Day is actually tomorrow, Monday. All right, so as y'all might know, I was a veteran. All right, I am a veteran. All right, I served 4 years in the Marine Corps from 2009 to 2013. I'm currently 33 years up, I believe. I hope I'm 33 years old. Kind of lost track. I was born in 1990, September 1990. All right. So, all right. So I served 4 years. All right. Actually, I served 3 years and I believe like 10 months. And I used the rest of my vacation days to get out a little early so I could start college, which I decided to, you know what, maybe I just take a semester off and then start next semester, which that's what I ended up doing. All right. So, anyways, I just want to talk about Memorial Day. All right. So this is actually the day that we think about people we lost. All right. And I'll just be straightforward. Being in the Marine Corps, yeah, yes, we lose a lot of people, but fortunately, I never lost anybody personally or that I knew of or knew a friend of a friend. None of that. So I was actually pretty blessed to not have that happen to me. I didn't feel a loss in my heart. All right. I have felt people got hurt, or people mentally, they just couldn't take it, but never really like that. Never had experienced that. All right. I've known some people that been in combat that went out there and they knew people, and I guess a story. So we were training, right? We were training. I believe it was weapons training in boot camp, and it's a young guy. He was one of our teachers. Was it? I don't remember if it was boot camp or it was MCT, where you train to where you do weapons training, pretty much. But anyways, so he was saying we had a lot of questions about Afghanistan. That was the place that we were more than likely going to go, Afghanistan. So we would ask about Afghanistan, like, does it look like this? Is the weather like this? What's the weather like? Like, what's a day in Afghanistan like? We would ask questions like this, and he would say, "Man, pretty much you're on the, you're walking, you're patrolling, and you're always aware, and for the most part, nothing really happens, but when it does, it does, and you got to be ready." So that's pretty much what he said. And he said, "Man, and by the way, as I'm telling the story, like, rest in peace, so and so." So he lost a friend in a fight. All right. He said that they were patrolling and they got ambushed, meaning the enemy was literally sitting there stalking them as they were walking, as they were confirming that it was clear. And when it was time for the enemy to shoot, they just came out of everywhere and started shooting. And it was pretty much survive at all costs. And he just said that, hey, people died, and this guy wasn't even young. This guy wasn't even old. He was very young. I would say maybe like 4 years older than me, maybe if that. So he was probably like 24, 25 at the time. So stuff like this does happen. All right, it does happen. Another story. One of my teachers in radio communication school. All right, so he hated Easter. Um, didn't really tell us why at first, and he hated Easter. Like he didn't really talk about Easter, nothing. But like, why? Like I don't, you know. Anyways, one time he got mad and said, "Y'all want to know why I hate Easter? Y'all want to know?" Like I, I spent I spent Easter in Iraq, all right, and on that day they pretty much got shot at. They got bombed pretty much. I guess they ran into a IED, explosive device, and he said that he saw a girl's face literally like burnt, and he said, and I can never take that image out of my head. And man, and this was actually a teacher that was very humorous. He was very like funny guy. He was very he loved joking around. And this was one of those rare moments that he was actually serious. Like he and it was actually like, whoa, like wow. I'm sorry, like we didn't know that, which a lot of times, yeah, you don't know, what people have gone through. You don't know. People are not. They don't have it on their chest, letting everybody know. All you need to know is, hey, did you go to Iraq or Afghanistan? Yes or no, and then you give them the respect. All right. So one thing I want to explain about especially the Marine Corps. I can only speak for the Marine Corps because that's where I was. I can speak a little bit about the Navy, but mostly the Marine Corps. All right. So one thing I can say is that there's like tiers, pretty much. It's like it's not really said, but it's like a tier. It's like, okay, you're a Marine. Okay, we're all Marines here. Now, one tier will be, have you been overseas? Have you deployed? And it's like, oh, you're not a real Marine until you deployed. Okay. Now you want to deploy. Like, man, I want to deploy because I want to get that respect that I've deployed. All right. And once you deployed, I deployed on a ship with the Navy. Now I was on a Marine Expeditionary Unit. I didn't go to Iraq or Afghanistan. So now what people say is, that you go to Iraq or Afghanistan. Like, neither. I deployed to. That's not a deployment. So I get the little less respect. All right. I don't get as much respect as somebody that went to Iraq and Afghanistan. All right. And then the next thing is, are you a combat, like, Marine? Do you get your rifle? Do you patrol? Are you one of us? If the answer is yes, like, okay, you're part of the group. If the answer is no, hey, you're a personnel other than grunt, PO, pretty much. So you get disrespected in that way. So there's always tiers. There people are always separating the fine line. Like, no, you're not a real combat veteran. No, you're not a real Marine. No, you're a undeployed Marine. Like, you've never been out. So that's how the Marines is. And what's crazy is, you'll meet, a lot of times we don't really talk to one another. If you deploy to Iraq, you're probably not going to talk to somebody that's never deployed to Iraq or never really knows anything about Iraq, because they take their job serious and you might not. If you haven't deployed, you might not take your job as serious as they do. And it's not that you don't take your job serious, it's just you don't take it as serious as they do. They take it as life or death situation serious. So a lot of times we don't really talk. All right, we don't. They've been through a lot of different things than we have. If we haven't been deployed or been in Iraq or Afghanistan, we don't understand what it's like. Therefore, we don't really have much in common. Therefore, we don't really have much to talk about, because a lot of times, it's about your experience. It's about what you experience out there, Iraq or Afghanistan. All right. So it's actually my wife calling me, but it's all good. I'll get back to her in like 5 minutes. All right. So I remember another story. A young kid. He was actually about, I would say he was 21. So we were Spain, probably in Europe. We were on our little deployment on ship. All right, and we stopped. Like, I believe this was in Spain. I want to say this was in Spain. Anyways, this kid, he talked to me. He was a actual combat Marine. He was actually in there. That was his MOS. So, but he would actually talk to me, which is rare. Like I said, we don't really talk to one another. But he talked to me because I reminded him of his little brother. Oh, on time. All right. So I reminded him of his little brother. So he would actually call me bro. They'd be like, bro. And he, every time he would see me, he would say, bro. He'll be like, bro. And so one day, I didn't really know why he was calling me that. But one day he sat down with me. Hey, bro. And I was like, hey. Like, oh, what's up, man? Like, and knowing that, hey, are you okay talking to us? Because we're not combat Marines here. And he just said, man, you remind me a lot of my brother. And I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And he would tell his friends, right, right. He looks just like my brother. Like, okay. So anyway, so he sat down and we're talking, and then my group, like, oh, combat Marine. And then so we started talking to this guy, and we asked him questions like, "So you been out there? Like, you been to Iraq or Afghanistan?" And he was like, "Yeah, I went to Afghanistan. The first month I hit the fleet, which is the first month I got orders to go on base. So he literally got his orders, got on base, started training. Didn't even finish training and deployed to Afghanistan. So he deployed very young. All right, I would say I think he said like 19. So he did boot camp at 18, and about 19 years old, he went to Afghanistan, and he witnessed his friend. All right, I gotta cancel the video. All right.